Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, I'll be discussing my thoughts on Season 1, Episode 3 of the DC Universe Titans series entitled Origins. And if you've watched either of my first two episode discussion, reaction, review videos, you might know that I haven't exactly had a highfalutin love for this series. In fact, I've kind of had a disdain for it. It's really been hard to watch for me for myriad reasons, you know, but like I was left after the second episode especially debating, do I even want to continue doing these video review discussions about this series? If I'm really going to like not be liking it, do I want to be that guy who bangs on and on and on about 6 Ways to Sunday, all the things that I can't stand about it all the time and never really finds anything redeeming in it? And so I tentatively watched this third episode of this series, and I was somewhat surprised that I had sort of a not fully 180-degree turn of appreciation toward it, but a much larger appreciation this time around than the first two episodes. And I kind of chalk it up to the 3-episode rule where it pertains to anime. That's something I've largely covered in the last couple of years on my YouTube channel. You know, intermittently I would cover Doctor Who and comic book movies and you know, Star Wars, Star Trek, all this other kind of stuff. You know, comic books themselves, trade paperbacks and such like that. And but I find with anime series, anyone who is a tried and true sort of seasonal anime viewer, you may come across the 3-episode rule, which is that you give a series the first 3 episodes before you really decide whether or not you're going to stick with it, that kind of thing. Is it going to grab you in those first 3 episodes? Even if the first couple of episodes don't really grab you, there's always a chance by the 3rd episode they're going to do something special. They're going to twist the story in a different direction or something like that, something that will grab you by the lapels and keep you watching. And so I'm kind of glad that I stuck with this. I had a suspicion that I would still be watching it, even if I thought I may not cover it in discussions like this anymore. But I'm glad that I did stick with it. I'm glad that, you know, I watched this 3rd episode because I had such a better time with it. And I kind of loosely feel like maybe it goes back to one of my chief peeves in the first 2 episodes, where it's like the characters were largely unlikable, and I think that was a consequence of their being singular. Apart from Dick and Rachel sort of hooking up, you know, her inadvertently seeking him out and coming under his protection and whatever like that, and even then, you know, their bounding off of each other back and forth was kind of not, you know, the most flattering character dynamic. In this episode, there's much more fluidity. There's much more humanity in the characters. Even with a character like Starfire, who, because she's amnesiac, she has no idea what's going on, but we actually have a lot more personality and sort of kick-ass vibe with her in this episode. And I really loved how, and warmed to how, she was bounding off of Rachel and vice versa there. You know, you had the family of blood, as I referred to them in my previous episode discussion video, call back to Doctor Who, because I'm frankly not sure what this nuclear family is. I'm assuming they hail from DC Comics, but I don't readily recognize them, you know, and that's the one thing that I thought of going back to Doctor Who, the family of blood. So, of course, we pick up where we left off in episode 2, where the family of blood tentatively kidnaps Rachel, and we find that Starfire has made her way there. She's been there for 2 days. She finally tracked Rachel down. You know, she went to her house and found some evidence and things like that, leading them to this sort of convent or whatever it is later on in the episode. But so Starfire is there. She's made her way there. She's landed there. Still hasn't had a change of clothes. You know, how long has this been? You know, is it just the 2 days that she's been in town? That she just arrived, you know, from where we last left her in episode 1? I don't know. But chiefly, like I say, you know, she tracks Rachel down and saves her life, effectively, because one can only assume, with the brutality and the bloodlust and the deaths that accrue under this family of blood, for lack of a better term, that Rachel is not in good standing while in their company, you know. They're probably going to kill her or do something, make her a sacrificial act. I don't exactly know. But it did not serve her well to be in their company, and that's something you get from right out of the gate. That is the case, and so the fact that Corey Starfire tracks her down, saves her by all out nuking Papa family of blood, the father figure, and then making off with Rachel, like, that is what really gets the ball rolling for me as far as the enjoyment I had in this episode. Seeing them bounding off of each other, seeing them paired together, and it was minor. It was just something, subtle, that dynamic that was going on between them. They stop off at a diner, and Seabass from Dumb and Dumber comes in and starts shit with everybody. And then, Corey excuses Rachel out to the car while she hands them all their asses, effectively. The fork going into Seabass's fist himself, it was delightful. Now, this comes on the coattails of her wreaking havoc with, 3 cops in Rachel's former house. And I was still sort of, tisk-tisking, shaking my head at that. I'm like, she's supposed to be a superhero, and she's kicking the asses of these cops who don't know any better. They're sort of watching a murder scene, waiting to see if anyone comes back to the scene of the crime, and so she wipes the floor with them, and I'm just sort of like, I don't know. But that whole sequence in the diner with Seabass, as I'll call him, because I don't remember what his name was, the way, Corey kicks all of their asses, and then she effectively gets lunch on the house, chicken waffles or whatever it was. That, I was grinning, I have to admit. That was the start of winning me over again, because it was really sort of a consequence of getting Corey and Rachel together. They are still not largely recognizable to me, or identifiable necessarily to me as the characters I recognize. Not that they necessarily have to be. But of course, going into this series, I have that familiarity. There's a level of that I'm looking for, and I'm just trying to grapple with and grasp onto if there's any hint of that. And as I have talked about with Dick Grayson, he has been the one who has been the most recognizable, even though in his adult, private detective guise, not quite. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still not entirely sure what led to the falling out between he and Bruce Wayne, Batman. Whether it's because he would go over the line and kill, or whether it's because Batman did, all that kind of stuff. I hope they will explain that away at some point. But that brings me to the next aspect of this episode that really got my juices flowing and really got me excited and drawn into it. Grabbed by the lapels was the origin aspect to the title of the episode, calling back on the young Dick, first being taken in by Bruce, not wanting to be there. Shades of Batman and Robin, yes, with Chris O'Donnell. But it was much more recognizable as Dick Grayson, as the soon-to-become blossom into Robin, that kind of thing at this early age. Even though I have to admit, the kid they cast as the young Dick, it's not really jiving too well to me. The look between he and the actor who's playing the adult Dick or young adult Dick, they don't quite look the same. The hair color's different to me and everything like that. That's a minor nitpick. But the whole calling back, the flashbacks to those aspects of Dick's younger days and being brought to Wayne Manor, running away, stealing the Porsche, which he still has. I guess, Bruce eventually gifted it to him, unless he just took it and Bruce figured, he's got to find his own way. He can have the goddamn car. I don't know. But I was almost waiting for, there are those panels of the Robin origin that Alex Ross illustrated in one of his, compendiums of his DC Comics artwork, which I have. Mythology, I think the book was called. And it shows this grand sequence of Robin, a young Dick Grayson, being sort of indoctrinated by Batman by candlelight. And I was like, the atmosphere of the sequences with the young Dick were kind of bringing that to mind, even though I didn't really expect we would get that at all. That's just the vibe I was starting to get. And of course, shades of Star Trek 2009 with a young James Tiberius Kirk stealing, the family, the adopted father's car or whatever, like, with young Dick stealing the Porsche and everything. And then getting the reprimand and finding, again, shades of the Batman and Robin, Chris O'Donnell, with Val Kilmer as Batman, wanting revenge on his, you know, the murder of his family, which of course was Two-Face in that movie, Tommy Lee Jones. And, but like, I don't know exactly what direction they're going to take that. I don't know. I'm hoping that's going to be answerable at some point. Now, is this going to be a mystery that Dick has already well and truly solved? Did he get his revenge, and that was where the falling out between he and Bruce, you know, came about? Is it still an ongoing thing that he has yet to find his family's killers? I don't know. But that is something that is adding to the intrigue of watching this series for me. And again, you know, like, why I feel like I had such a better time with this is because the characters are now gravitating toward each other. I mean, even Gar, I think I called him Garth in you know, my episode 1 discussion video, because I was thinking like Wayne and Garth, Gar, and everything like that. Gar Logan, Beast Boy, for the uninitiated, you know, even he's back, and I like the tentative rapport between he and Rachel, as we see at the roller rink in this episode. So the subtlety of ramping up the characterization through their intermingling is what really brought me on board. You know, even with things like the crazy brutality and what's going on with the nuclear family, the family of blood, whoever they actually are, you know, those kinds of things. Like, even though there is this coarse edge to it, this edginess to it, this darkness for the sake of being, you know, edgy and rough and whatever, overly melodramatic in places, like, all of that stuff was really drawing me in. And especially when they finally figure out, you know, that Rachel has these origins to this convent or whatever it is. As soon as we meet the head nun, I'm like, something's going down here, man. Is she Granny Goodness or something like that? How about the old lady who gives the nuclear family the you know, the candies or whatever, the butterscotches, and then the old man upstairs is like, don't eat the candy. I don't know if Granny Goodness is anything to do with this, but you know, like, as soon as I saw that head nun, I was just like, something fishy is afoot here. I don't know what it is. And sure enough, that lands home with this nun effectively drugging Rachel. They know a lot more about her, it seems, than they're letting on. And it's all Trigon and everything like that, or the dark side within Rachel's coming forth. And it seems like everyone knows, you know, 6 Ways to Sunday, this is the portal through which the earth will end. You know, Papa Dearest comes through the portal, and then we're gonna, you know, the guy says, wipe the flesh off the face of the earth or something like that. And I love how the daughter in the family of blood's like, I'd like to see that. You know, there was personality. That's what I'm getting around to. There was personality in this episode, much more personality than I felt was in the first two, and it's a better plotting of the story, the gravitation of these characters coming together, finding a little bit more about Corey, like how long she's been on this search, and that she knows something about it, but because of her amnesia, she's not quite there anymore. She doesn't know what exactly it is, and you know, Dick's following up with her after she makes off with his Porsche and everything, which I expected he was going to do. You know, I knew he was going to, like, pinpoint where she went. But she ends up leading herself back to her pad, her little, like, conspiracy theory pad, you know, and, like, she's got, like, was it like a tanning bed, or like, is that her vessel? Is that her ship or something? Because she's supposed to be an alien. She seems to be able to perceive the alien language, the dialect, as she's written it out, but she doesn't seem to know what it means. And so there is that conflict, but because there was much more personality, because she was bounding off Dick and bounding off Rachel, and they're trying to, you know, as a cohesive unit, they're trying to piece the puzzle pieces back together again and figure out what's going on. The fact that she realizes, oh, there's like a prophecy here. There's doom and gloom and all hell, and the explosion comes after the nun drugs Rachel and puts her in the basement of the place. She manages to escape, and there are ravens flying everywhere. I love, you know, leading to the idea of Raven with all that iconography and all that kind of stuff. And so that's what was happening in this episode. A lot more of that stuff that I felt was missing. Those iconographies, those identifiable aspects were coming much more to the fore in this episode, and it got me that much more excited. You know, I'm wondering how Gar is going to, you know, feature back into this, factor back in. How is he going to like run into Rachel again, find her, and that's how he's going to be part of the group? I don't know. It seems like the next episode is going to be the Doom Patrol, and I don't know a hell of a lot about them either. Much as I keep referring to them, the family of blood in this episode. Again, let me know in the comments below, who the hell are they? I don't know. Anything to do with Granny Goodness, or am I way off? You know, that kind of thing. All I know is I watched episode 3, Origins of this series, and I had such a better time with it than the first 2 episodes. And I think it's just because the writing was more on point, the subtlety in grooving these characters together and getting them together, that you know, interpersonal interconnectivity that was going on, I had a much more, you know, enlightened time with. It also kind of helped that, like, I think it wasn't so much a process through the characterization and the acting in the episode, but you had a pretty kick-ass score with some classic rock and stuff like that. Definitely giving me Guardians of the Galaxy vibes, and for want of, you know, that sort of lighthearted characterization in the acting out of the characters necessarily, it sort of brought that to mind because of the music, because of the classic music, 70s rock and roll and stuff like that. I'm glad I stuck with watching it. I still had a feeling I was going to, but as I said, I didn't know if I was going to find it worthy of talking about, if I was just going to be ripping it apart and bashing it. And so the motivation to come on and do this video, talk about it, was because I had a different reaction this time around, and I felt it was noteworthy. It was worthy of discussing. And so I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below with that in mind, what you thought of episode 3 of season 1 of the DC Universe series Titans, entitled Origins. If you had a blast with it, if you enjoyed it much more than I did, or as much as I did, I should say, or if it fell flat for you, you know, anything goes in the comments below, as long as you're respectable and respect everyone else's opinions. And so I'd like to ask you at this juncture in the video, if you enjoyed this video discussion and you'd like to see content like this in the future, please have a look at my PayPal contribution link in the description, as well as the comments below. Anything you saw fit to send my way to assure my longevity on YouTube would be that much appreciated. And you have options as far as making a monthly contribution, a one-time only kind of thing. Send me a personal message, perhaps requesting a certain topic I might discuss in the future. All that kind of good stuff is readily available to you, and it would just be 2 thumbs up for me, anything you saw fit to send my way. And so with that, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.